never traveled to Europe, never traveled to um, any of the islands like Bahamas or Bermuda or Jamaica or any of those type places. So she's all her travel was inside the United States, and it wasn't until she was mid 40s to around 60 years old. Um, she did tell stories about remembering, even though Prohibition ended in 1933 after she was born, she had an uncle that was in politics and also owned a bar right near their home in Detroit on Michigan Avenue, and they still produced bathtub gin in the 40s because it was a little cheaper to get than and make and sell in the bar than it was at the and they would sell it after hours because it wasn't accounted for. But I do remember those stories. Um, did she? What's one thing she might instill upon us? It was hard work even from an early age. We had chores, and she made sure that they were done. And the trust and verify thing is something that I think my mom partially invented because even after we washed the dishes and put them away, she would be going through the cupboards and doing spot checks to make sure that they were clean enough to be used the next time out. Um, we thought that was kind of crazy at the time, but she would do things like that. Or if it was our turn to dust the furniture or vacuum, she made sure that that was done the way she wanted it done, not the way we wanted it done. So there was a lot of uh, follow up after we did our chores. There was four boys in her family. She had four sons, no daughters. Funny thing is that my dad was quite tall, and your grandma Bushi was quite short. She was never over 5 foot tall, and when she was raising her boys, we were all a lot bigger and stronger than she was at an early age. But that didn't stop her from disciplining us with whatever might be in sight, whether it be a wooden spoon or a shoe or a broom handle or whatever was close by to give us a whack. You relate that to some of the stuff that's going on in the news today with high-profile athletes and so on, and using a stick to discipline their 4-year-old. We didn't get that luxury of filing lawsuits and complaining about our parents doing that type of stuff to us because that was just the way you were born, or that was the way you were raised. If you didn't do things properly, you were disciplined. There was a question about if Bushi grew up in the church. Obviously, I said she went to St. Hedwig High School, but so she had a Catholic background. It was very my grandma, her mom, was a very strict Catholic. So we on Wednesdays and Fridays didn't eat meat, and on Sundays we went to church. I remember when they started doing Catholic Mass on Saturday afternoons. My grandma, Bushi's mom, would come visit us from out of Detroit, and she would never go to Saturday Mass because she said that wasn't Catholic or that wasn't holy to go on Saturday because Sunday was a day of rest. So she never went to a Saturday Mass. But Bushi's mom, my grandma, lived in the same house in Detroit from like I said, from the time she was married in the 1920s until she got very sick in 1974, and she was put in I wouldn't say a nursing home, but she was kind of living in a assisted living for about 2 months only. She got very sick very fast and died of cancer, but so she lived in that same house. And then after she passed away, Bushi sold that house, and at that time the neighborhood had changed and was starting to be more of a Spanish-Mexican neighborhood. But one thing I can remember when I was growing up, it was very easy to find my grandma's house where Bushi grew up because there was a gas station on the corner, and gas was always 29 cents, and it had a little 9 because for whatever reason there was always 9-10 cents tax, and there still is today on the gas in Michigan. But that was an easy way because you could see that sign for almost a mile away because the 2 and the 9 were about 5 feet tall on a sign, and so I knew where to turn. Some things that again, there were alleys in the neighborhoods, and that we would play baseball in the alleys, not in cement, rather than playing out in a grass field. And we would go down to Detroit to visit and do pickup games, and either play in a parking lot or in, like I said, in the alley because there wasn't space to. The parks were too far away to get to, so we would just play in areas like that. Like I say, some of the things that your Bushi, my mom, your grandma has talked about over time was, the assassination of John F. Kennedy the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the impeachment of President Nixon. One of the things when talking about presidents that was always very secretive when how they voted in presidential elections. No one would give up their affiliation if they were Republican or Democrat. My mom or my dad would never say who they voted for, even to each other while they were married. But now that Bushi's older, it's one of the things she's not opposed to discussing. She'll just come right out and tell you who she thinks the better candidate is and who she's voted for. I know if you asked her what kind of changes she went through as she got older, she would probably tell you that her strength isn't what it used to be, and obviously her hearing is decreasing. It's getting more difficult for her to hear. She does have difficulty even walking short distances, and part of that is because she has emphysema, which is a lung disease, and Bushi did smoke cigarettes, and from the time she was 14 years old until about 5 years ago, so she's 82 now, and about 5 years ago she went to the hospital because she was having some fainting spells, and the doctor told her it was from the lack of oxygen, and if she wanted to live a little bit longer, she should probably quit smoking. She did smoke 2 packs a day for all those years, and she just quit without any like smoking cessation help or tools or anything of that nature. She just said okay and threw her cigarettes away and hadn't smoked since. But she'll say that has attributed to her not being strong like she should be at her age, just because she doesn't have the oxygen when she's breathing, so she just gets weak real fast. One thing she has held on to, she was a Tigers fan back in the 60s, and she remains a true Tigers fan to this day. She lives for the summertime and listening and watching the baseball games. And I think if it was the one, like I said, I don't know if I remember if I said this already, but one of the things that she would say that she instilled upon her kids was to put in an honest day's work for a fair day's pay, and not to complain about it, because there could be worse things we could be doing. So that was I think, her motto to us. One thing that's been difficult for her, and it really aged her fast, is she had one of her sons pass away from cancer. My brother Bill, your Uncle Bill, when he was 47. And that really, I think that's when her health really changed for the worse. She kind of I won't say gave up, but just sometimes she says it's difficult to move forward just because it's so hard to be here and not have she said that she was supposed to pass away before her children did, so that was really difficult for her. And she did say, actually, even though she was divorced from her husband for a long, long time before he passed away, when your grandpa passed away, my dad, she was at the funeral, and she actually did pay a compliment to him, saying that he was still the best dancer that she ever danced with. So even though they had an irreconcilable difference, at the time when they were divorced in 1982 or 83, whenever that was, she still had something nice to say about him some 40 years later. I guess that's something that, sticks with me as well, as, you can forgive and forget and move on in life and not hold grudges. I think that's something that, I take from that and learn from your grandma, my Bushi, about. Hope this works for you, bud. If not, I guess after you listen to it, I can do it again. That's it. Bye.